Hey everyone, welcome to From the Depths. I'm Menti, and this is episode 51 of the Battleship Brawls Season 4 tournament. The Danubia by Black Hand is continuing its march through the ranks, but it is one victory away. It just needs to win one more time, and it will become a champion. Standing in the way of that is the Quasipupirka. Sure, we'll go with that. The Quasi by Pacus, which is a big, seems to be wooden ship here. Another, as people started calling it in the Discord, cardboard abomination with 5-barreled turrets that are also made of wood. So I don't imagine they're going to be very durable. But it has 5 turrets with 5 guns each, so 25 guns. Other than that, there's not really anything on the ship. It's just got the turrets. Oh, but it seems like all of the turret bases are down in the bottom of the ship. And it's just got necks that go all the way up through the super firing turrets. That's interesting. Let's see if there's anything down here. There's some propeller mounts. Got some propellers on the back here. I do like the curve there on the rear of this ship. I like how that looks. On the bottom, anyway. I think that looks neat. But yeah, there's not really anything else to show on this thing, so we'll go ahead and pull the camera back. Find the Danubia, and we will get round 1 here underway. And that thing is huge now that I look at it. Like, the Quasi is a very large ship. We will see how it does versus the Danubia. Why? Oh, I was gonna say, I only see 5 shells there. What's going on? But it's because, oof. There's a lot of fragments. And the Danubia answers back, but the Quasi basically got a free volley on it. That is a lot of shells. Have to say, that is a lot of shells. Oh, and it's not even that I thought the trails were getting deleted because of like frame rate issues, degraded mode, but it looks like they're just kind of transparent for some of the shells. Like, just very faded and not really easy to see. And looking at it, it does not look like they have much in the way explosive. It's mostly frag, it seems. Ships are very close in hit points thus far. 97% for the Danubia to the 95% for the Quasi. Quasi has many more blocks and many more guns, but the Danubia is very resistant to damage. But the Quasi's guns may be a bit difficult to take out, whereas the Danubia's, they're not easy to take down, but at least 3 of them are dead right now. I think this one may be gone as well. The barrels have been severed to the point where it can't fire. Just fragments everywhere. But here's the thing, the Danubia is not taking much in the way of hull damage. It's like lost a whole bunch of the wood stuff on the side, but its hull is just fine. So even if the Quasi manages to take out the Danubia's guns, if it doesn't kill the components down on the inside, it's not going to do a whole lot of hull damage to the Danubia. Which means the Danubia could end up having all of its guns destroyed and then possibly win the match anyway if it does enough damage before that happens. Though eventually, once the repair rate, or once the repairs are gone on the Danubia, like, those fragments will whittle away at the Danubia's armor. But I mean, really, the Danubia is taking a massive number of. Ooh, that was a direct shot to that rear turret. The Danubia has taken a lot of hits, but not a lot of damage, other than to its guns. All these forward turrets on the Quasi aren't even aiming anymore. They might be... Yeah, I think the Danubia might be out of its firing arc, though really it looks like that turret should be able to fire. Yeah, it looks like they should have the angle, but firing restrictions might be a little bit too tight. Quasi has taken quite a bit of damage to its hull, but the innards, the stone holding the actual turret parts, has so far been protected. But it's not a whole lot of protection. One shot through one of those holes, and that gun will likely no longer function. It'll be lucky to still be attached to the ship. However, the Danubia only has one functional gun left. If that, this gun actually hasn't fired for a while. I'm not sure if it's still functional. It does have some damage. You can see some of the armor there has been removed and barrels. It might be too far. But the Danubia is currently still within 5% of the Quasi, though it has run out of materials to repair with, so from here on out, any damage dealt is permanent. Oh, and it seems the Danubia has lost propulsion, has gone dead in the water, and that gun still has not fired. There we go, now the Quasi is ahead by 5%. Yeah, like, there's very little explosive in those shells, and I don't think much in the way of kinetic. I think it's mostly cram. Or, cram. Of course it's mostly cram. Mostly frags, which don't really do much to the Danubia's deck armor. I mean, sure, it does a good job of shredding the stuff on the side, but, oh, it actually does a pretty good job of punching into the Danubia's side armor, though. Which is, yep, that's how this gun got disabled. Turns out it is damaged to the point of non-functional. Oh, and the Danubia, actually both ships getting disqualification time. They are too far away and neither ship is approaching. Uh-oh, Quasi, you better start turning. You better start approaching. Don't cause a draw when you've got the win in the bag. Uh-oh. I don't think it's going to make it. I don't think it's going to turn in time. I think both ships are going to detonate here. And both ships are disqualified for being too far. Yep, they both detonated. The Danubia was unable to course correct because it was made dead in the water, and the Quasi could not turn in time. So they were both disqualified for being too far apart. So round one is a draw. Where is the... Oh, okay. That glitch where they don't load in properly screwed me up there a little bit. Anyway, let's get round 2 here underway. See if the Danubia can claim its victory and become a champion this time, or if the Quasi's going to hammer its guns into submission. Or, you know, sail out of range, cause another loss. Well, not loss, but draw. I mean, the Quasi had that round. It was in the bag. All it had to do was not get itself disqualified, and it won. But, hey, it didn't do that, and there's no telling. I mean, obviously, the Danubia was caused by battle damage from the Quasi, but we have no way to tell, like, if the Quasi just didn't turn in time, or maybe it too took battle damage, you know, and was unable to turn effectively. Or maybe it's just not good at turning, and a stationary opponent makes it difficult for the ship to maintain range. Who knows? Just fragments everywhere. It's almost like flak. It's like Danubia is just in a flak cloud. But it basically comes down to how much damage can the Danubia do before the Quasi knocks out its guns. If it can do enough, and maybe knock out a gun or two on its own, which, ooh, those shells are going right into those holes. Yep, that rear turret. Good night, Irene. Oh, it actually didn't do any damage to the innards, but the turret itself got bashed pretty good and is no longer functional. That is a big chunk of hit points lost. And also, you know, reduced damage output. Ooh, that shell looks like it was going right... Nope, didn't quite hit the turret directly, but it was awfully close. That neck protecting the armor all around the neck, protecting the turret from, you know, being completely disabled there from one strike. We're getting some frame rate jittering. So after this round, since we're going to a round 3 no matter what happens here, I will probably restart the game before doing round 3 so we don't get even more jitter. Oof, this is kind of painful. Why it, From the Depths does this sometimes, where it just starts having frame rate issues after a battle, like it's memory leaking or something. The Quasi is behind almost by a full 10%, and the Danubia is still repairing away. The Quasi seems to have minimal repair capabilities, if any. That material consumption may be a steam engine. Oof. The frame rate stuttering is just unpleasant. Not fun to watch, but I don't want to restart the battle this far into it. Especially when the outcome of this battle seems to be different from the first one, at least as far as, like, Because the Danubia's gotten the Quasi much, much lower this time. And if the Danubia maintains its ability to move and turn, it may even be able to get the Quasi disqualified. All it has to do is start the counter and then turn and come to face its opponent and move toward it at some point without closing the distance, and the Quasi will lose. But the Quasi's guns are actually very good at not dying, just because there is a whole bunch of ship for the Danubia shells to land on. And they are actually fairly well protected with stone deep within this cardboard core. But now the forward gun here, well, forward guns, have also been pulled out of firing angle once more and can't aim, reducing the Quasi's firepower. And with that rear turret knocked out as well, that's not looking good. It's also starting to list heavily. We might get a capsize. That's a really high arcing shell. That's some plunging fire right there. Quasi is definitely having some issues. That shell's going right for that turret. That was a direct hit to the turret. Oh, I guess it does have some metal. Looks like one of those guns was damaged, though. I'm not sure it's going to be able to continue firing that particular gun, but the Quasi is going over. Oh, and its guns are losing the ability to elevate because of the capsize. It can no longer fire on the Danubia. And the Danubia is dead in the water. But it still has a functioning gun. Uh-oh. I hope we don't get another mutual disqualification. But this match, ooh, that went right through the top of that turret. That was, yeah, look at all that damage inside that turret now. And the Danubia almost has the 5% it needs to claim a victory. Since it still has a gun, it would no doubt reach that point. It's unknown whether the Quasi will be able to do anything with it flopped on its side like this. Right now I'm concerned with it even being able to stay within range. And the Danubia has no materials with which it can repair. I think the Danubia is I think the Quasi might be out of range of this gun, because it just stopped firing when it hasn't taken any further damage. It is damaged though. I don't know if it just ran out of ammunition or if the target is too far, because if you notice when the match starts, the Danubia does take a while to fire, and then it kind of fires down the line of the ship as if it's waiting for a certain range. You can see the Quasi's guns waving over there in the distance. Trying desperately to continue this fight, but currently not able. And the Danubia is 0.3% away from getting the 5% it needs to call this a victory. So far they are still in range. No DQ time is being given out. They're basically parallel right now, so I don't think DQ time is going to be a thing. But I also don't think that the Quasi is going to be able to turn and move fast enough to get either of them the ability to fire on one another again before time runs out. Oh, it seems the Quasi lost a block. It's only 0.2%. It's a 4.8% difference, which is not enough for a victory. So we may have another draw in round 2. I'm pretty sure that's where this is going. It's a matter of whether if the Danubia gets off one more shot and lands a good shot, it could claim this round as a win. But because it has gone dead in the water, and the Quasi is not a faster, agile ship, this gun is just kind of like, can I fire? Can I fire? Please? Please? No? Why not? Please? If I'd been firing this whole time, we would have won. Oh, there's actually 2 guns. Yeah, if they had been firing this whole time, they no doubt would have given the Danubia the 5% it needed. But as it looks like, unless one of those shells fire in the next like 20 seconds, I don't think it's gonna happen. Oh, and the Quasi's getting off some shots. Which may or may not make a difference. It's not going to be enough. None of those shells are even going to land before the time runs out, I think. Oh, well, there's some. But there's time. It has 81.6 to 86.2. If I add 5% to the Quasi, it's 86.6, which is more than the Danubia's 86.2. So round 2 is also a draw. Now I'm going to go ahead and do what I can to fix the frame rate stutter. Okay, so here we are again, folks. Did a quick cut because I tried going out just to the main menu and restarting, but that didn't work. I had to completely restart the game. Hopefully this will fix things. Otherwise I'm going to have to take a look at the Quasi, much like I did with the waifu. But it wasn't too terribly bad. It wasn't great, but we'll see how this one goes. But we're going into round 3 here with 2 draws in round 1 and 2. So, whoever wins this round wins the whole thing, and there is no 5% rule. So let's get this match underway. But yeah, see, now that with the game restarted, it's running pretty smooth again. Some sort of memory leak or something going on there. I mean, yeah, the frames are dropping, but at least they're not stuttering, you know? And time is progressing at a reasonable pace. Danubia shells detonating a little early there. I don't don't know if they've got like a depth fuse on them and the shells fell short. Caused that or what? Ooh, that turret right here just took a big shot. That is an early turret destruction on the Quasi, which is going to make a big difference in how this plays out. Though, the Danubia is down to 95% already. It is actually behind the Quasi in hit points. It has also lost several guns. 4 of them, it looks like. It's almost half of its armament gone already in the first minute of the battle. Just so much frag just spewing out. Another gun just fell off there, so the Danubia not doing so well. It's at 92.5%. Quasi at 95.2. Things not going well for the Danubia this time around. And oh, it may have just lost. Nope. Okay, nope. That gun held together. It did lose some barrels. Ooh, this forward gun also took some damage, but seems functional still. Really, I feel like the Danubia should aim at the rear guns and just try to get around behind the Quasi. Because that just removes the front guns from the equation by doing that. So if it knocks out the rear guns and then gets out of the firing arc of the forward guns, it's basically doing the same thing as disabling the entire ship. But oh, the Danubia losing another gun. It's down to 3. And it is behind on hit points. Oh, and it lost another one. It's down to 2 guns. And it has used a lot of materials for repairs. I don't think it's going to be able to bring anything back online. It is getting absolutely hammered by the Quasi this round. Uh-oh, the Danubia just went dead in the water. That is not good news for it. Uh-oh, I think the Danubia's on the ropes here, folks. Oh, it got its engine fixed. It's underway again. That's something. But it is almost out of materials. It only has 2 operable guns left. Which is just not enough firepower. Is once again out of materials, and we know that its engines or something are exposed. Since it already went dead in the water once, it is possible that it'll happen again. Seeing how it happened in both of the other rounds as well, it's pretty likely to happen again. I mean, the Danubia has fought this down to a less than 5% battle, but that doesn't matter. Round 3, the 5% rule doesn't count if entering round 3 as a draw, there has to be a victor. So whoever has the most hit points at the end of this round wins it. Wins the whole thing. Simple as that. Danubia is going to have to land some gun hits to make up that HP difference. I don't even think its shells can reach these turret compartments down here, because I think they detonate with a depth fuse before they get down that far. See, like this, like there was a shell, it just detonated right here. And that is not low enough. The main turret components are actually safe from the Danubia shells, they're so low. I think that depth fuse might have been the nail in the coffin for the Danubia. If it didn't have that, it very well could have won this match, but it's like unless the Quasi gets itself disqualified somehow again, I think it's got the win in the bag here. But you never know. I wasn't expecting that mutual disqualification in round 1. Danubia is still sailing, so a disqualification not likely to happen. Seems like it's trying to stay out at too far a range too. That gun is not firing again. What range restrictions did you put on this, Black Hand? Way too short. That gun is obviously trying to aim. It thinks it can land a shot, but it is holding fire. Is it still functional? It looks like it's taking some damage, but should still be functional. Just not at not complete functionality. You know, it's damaged but operable. And there we are, folks. That is the end of this match. The Quasi is the victor this round by a 23% margin. So draw, loss means the Danubia loses this match. And we'll be moving on to face another opponent. But its next match will be its last one. Win or lose, it will retire. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. And if you haven't voted for the Danubia for Hall of Beauty, make sure you do that. And as always, the Quasi will be down there as well, ready to take some votes as of today. So, yeah, make sure to check out the description for all that stuff. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the battlefield.